This video is brought to you by Semyon Bibo.
These eyes will deceive you. They will destroy you. They will take from you your innocence, your pride, and eventually your soul. These are the eyes of a psychopath.
Že si tak vzteklý.
The 1969 movie The Cremator, directed by Juraj Herz, is a grotesque and haunting observation of how a deranged mind breaks free from the societal morals and values, and how a fascination with death transforms into a dire need for destruction. It's a study on madness.
Je veliké dobro jenom tehdy, když člověka zbaví velikého trápení.
The movie follows the scattered consciousness of an employee of a crematorium named Karl Kopfrkingl. With the rise of Nazi Germany and the demise of the First Czechoslovakian Republic as the setting of the movie, we watch Karl as he descends further into an irreversible state of mania and insanity. Although the movie explains how all of this happened, it's much more difficult to determine how Karl became so interested in death, as the movie doesn't reveal that much about his past. So we have to take it for granted that Karl has an obsession with death. This is of course visible in his job as a cremator, his philosophy,
Nic není v životě lidském jisté. Jenom smrt. Smrt.
and in multiple other scenes. In the scene when Karl speaks at a party,
Takové krematorium je vlastně, milí přátelé, velmi bohumilá věc. Vždyť ono pomáhá Pánu Bohu tu přeměnu člověka v prachu spišovat.
when he feels sorry that the flowers at the graveyard are alive and not artificial,
Škoda, že nejsou umělé, i ve sněhu by byly rozkvetlé.
and of course the carnival scene. While his wife and kids enjoy all the attractions and the light-hearted atmosphere, Karl looks miserable with a bitter look on his face. However, as soon as they enter a disturbing wax museum, Karl's mood changes and he keeps on grinning. The key moment in this scene is when the actors in the wax museum pretend to be dead in a bathroom.
Staré lázně. Oči nádhernější ta naše koupelna doma.
Not only functions this part of the scene with the jump cut to their own bathroom as foreshadowing, as Karl will murder his wife later in the movie in their bathroom, it also shows how mundane death has become to him. He's able to look past the horrendous waxworks and what they portray, and instead lets his mind wander into the banality of the everyday life.
Žároviště mě vždycky připadají jako pece pro přípravu našeho vezdejšího chleba.
But the opening scene is also a great example of how the movie communicates how deranged Karl is. A fast-paced montage of Karl and his family juxtaposed with various zoo animals give us vital information. Karl is linked to wild, threatening animals such as a lion, a rhino or a snake, while Lakme, his wife, is associated with a tiny bird, and Millie and Zina are filmed from inside the cage, which makes it look like they are caged.
Ale no tak, děti. Klece jsou přece pro němé tváře.
This truly takes a dark turn when you keep in mind that Lakme, Millie and Zina are Jewish, and that under the Nazi regime they will most likely be sent off to concentration camps. At the end of the movie they are saved because Karl leads them into death and he sees death as...
Je však pravda, že smrt může být i veliké dobro. Veliké dobro tenkrát, když nás ušetří velikého trápení.
At some point in his life, his obsession with death became an integral part of Karl's identity and shaped his thinking as well as his ambition to help as much people with dying as possible. However, just because Karl thinks about death doesn't mean he's going to act upon his beliefs, as they are in sharp contrast with what is socially accepted in the society he lives in. Human behavior is the response to internal and external stimuli and is modified according to the societal values through the process of upbringing and cultural influences. The close environment functions as a watchdog and society itself will punish what is not wanted. Until the society crumbles, of course. With the rapidly shifting social landscape triggered by the Nazi occupation of Czechoslovakia, Karl finds himself in a position where his desire for destruction and death does find a place in the new society. Under the influence of both his Nazi friend Walter Reinke and the Nazi ideology in general, Karl acts more on his primal needs and starts killing people, as well as betraying social groups.
Tak říkali, že zničí Německo a sami se chopí moci. Ano, chopí moci. A ten zpěv byl tak měkký, tak žalostný. Říkali tedy, že pohřbí Německo. Říši! Ano.
Walter Reinke played a vital role in this process, although Karl was already in a quite penible situation. Reinke keeps reminding Karl how important blood and heritage really is to someone.
Jsi čestný, citlivý, odpovědný člověk. Jsi silný, statečný, čistá germánská duše.
He also links everything that is remotely traditional to negativity.
Na cizí způsob my je děláme česky. Kapry? Budíš. Ale ty necítíš naši krev? My bojujeme za vznešené cíle a ty smažíš kapry po Česku? Já vždycky myslel, že jsi proti násilí. Že ti jde o spravedlnost, pásu a štěstí nás všech.
Ultimately, Reinke manipulates Karl and reinforces Karl's beliefs as well as his narcissistic glorified ego, and Reinke gives Karl a direct way to satisfy his death drive. The movie is told from Karl's perspective, and the dialogue is limited to lines that are expressed only in relation with Karl, which furthers the narcissistic glorification of himself. It's that exact narcissism that makes who he is so different from the way he sees himself. The Cremator can be seen as the fantasy of Karl. There are only a handful of scenes that are grounded in reality, and thus the movie can be split in two parts. The scenes where Karl takes the lead are based in his fantasy, and scenes where he's quite weak, mostly the ones where he has a conversation with Reinke, are part of reality. Let's start with the fantasy scenes as they take up most of the movie. It's important to note that Karl explicitly says something about La Danse Macabre, an allegory of Western medieval culture that comments on how death is universal and shall unite us all, no matter the status you have in life. Karl, however, thinks that he is the one who is conducting this dance. It's almost as if the Cremator is an autobiography and Karl is accentuating all his accomplishments and qualities. He is the center point of the movie and carefully constructs his narrative. When you watch the Cremator, you start to realize how detached the world in the movie is from reality. No one really talks except Karl, and they do not react to the absurd and sometimes horrific things he says.
Možná, že vás napadá, aby tak nebyla mrtvá. To by byla špatná myšlenka, pane Dvořák. Ta žena byla za mrtvou prohlášena. A v tom případě je naší povinností ji po obřadě spálit.
And Karl is always the one who is leading the conversation, almost like he's directing all the scenes. There are also a couple of strange, utterly bizarre actions in Karl's behavior. He has the tendency to place his hand on the shoulders of the people he's talking to, literally guiding them to where he wants them to be, and he often combs their hair, as if he's making the body ready for a funeral. The scene with Mr. Dvorak in the crematorium combines all of the previously stated elements. Karl leads the conversation, he places his hand on the shoulder of Mr. Dvorak, and he says something absurd.
V poledne máme pauzu. Když je hezky, můžete se, pane Dvořák, nadýchat čerstvého vzduchu na hřbitově.
Or take the party scene, for example. Twice Karl snatches a cigar from someone's mouth. He cleans his ears with a cotton swab and he precisely leads his guests to a place where he wants them to sit.
Třeba sem k té půvabné dámě, prosím.
Everything goes according to how he wants things to happen. The scenes that are part of reality are quite different. Whenever Karl is talking to Reinke, he comes across as a weaker version of how he wants to be seen. Karl is almost stuttering, he is insecure, and it looks like he doesn't want to act upon his fascination for death.
I naše krev je česká. Když budeš pátrat, určitě zjistíš, že je v ní alespoň kapka německé krve. Snad kapka.
Karl is a mental hypocrite who is not sincere in his own beliefs. Secondly, there are the scenes with his family. The killings of Lakme, Millie and Zani have point-of-view shots and show us what is really happening. Lakme's killing scene is incredibly interesting to watch, as we follow the same structure of many of the other scenes in the movie. Karl starts his monologue and the camera lingers on his face. This time, however, we get a glimpse of what is actually happening as the camera switches to his point of view. He chases Lakme through the house and she becomes more and more uncomfortable. Ultimately, we end up in the same scenario as always. Reality and fantasy are woven together. He combs her hair, leads her to the bathroom, kills her, and meets with his ego. The Cremator can be viewed as an allegoric story of how the Czechoslovakian society as a whole adapted to a new regime of totalitarianism instead of provoking a general contra-reaction. In that regard, the Cremator is a clear example of the Czechoslovak new wave of cinema, but it also answers the question if killers are born or made, and leaves it somewhere in the middle. While Karl Severe's fascination with death and his imaginary mission to save all the people by cremating them are internal stimuli, the manipulation by Reinke is an external force that pressured Karl into releasing his inner desire. In the Cremator, murderers are both born and made.
Nikdo nebude trpět, spasím je všecky.